This one came up a lot during my last video where I was candying my nuts. Everybody wants to know how to make Deez nuts. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now so that you can put your mouth on Deez nuts.
We're gonna start off with about a third cup of sugar and a quarter cup of water. We're gonna put that on high-ish heat, high, maybe just below, and add the rest of the spices. This is about a quarter teaspoon of nutmeg, about a half teaspoon of cinnamon. We got a little bit of salt in there. It's about a quarter teaspoon. Touch of clove, about an eighth a teaspoon. Cloves are potent. And about a quarter teaspoon to a half teaspoon of cardamom, and maybe half a teaspoon of vanilla or so. We're gonna bring all that shit to a boil until it thickens and becomes more of a syrup. Now, once this starts to look like a syrup, you'll tell because the viscosity will change. It'll get a little bit thicker. And at that moment, when it gets a little bit thicker, you're going to want to add your nuts. Now, Deez nuts are just walnuts, but you could use any nuts. I highly recommend you toast them ahead of time though, because it does give them a little more crunch, a little more flavor. You know, you want to add those layers of flavor. Toss your nuts in this beautiful syrup and let your nuts glisten. Once it cooks down just another minute, this whole process just took a couple of minutes, it's going to thicken a lot more. We're literally evaporating most, if not all, of the water from this pan. That's what we're doing here. And the sugars are going to caramelize. Now be careful because this is very fucking hot. Water is 212 degrees when it boils. Sugar, much hotter, can get up to maybe roughly 400 degrees if I'm not mistaken. So be very careful when you do this. We're going to lay these out onto a sheet with a little bit of parchment paper or some wax paper or something. Parchment's probably best, wax might come off. And then we're going to let them cool completely because these are very fucking hot. Do not put these Deez nuts in your mouth right away unless you want to burn your mouth. Look at my nuts glisten under this light, huh? That's what I'm talking about. Candied nuts are absolutely delicious. I love them all times of year, but especially during the holidays because it's just nostalgia. Now, if you don't want your nuts to stick together, you gotta coat them in powder. Right, boys, right? Am I right? So this is just a little bit of powdered sugar. If you don't want your nuts to stick together, coat them in powdered sugar. If you don't want the extra sugar, don't do this step. It's that fucking simple, right? But these nuts will not stick together now. Just look at my nuts. Now put them in your mouth, baby.